Hi everybody, for this week's video I'm going to be reviewing the LARA Underbust Corset by Glamorous Corsets. So here's the front, side, back, and the other side. For the length and fit of this corset, the center front here is 12.5 inches. At the princess seam here it's 9.5 inches. At the side seam it's 10.5, and in the center back it's 12.5 inches. This is kind of a mid-hip corset. My iliac crest is about an inch above, like underneath the lower edge of this corset here. But you can still fit this corset if you have an average length torso, if you're at least 9.5 inches from under the breast to the top of the lap here. Today I'm wearing a size 24, so it's 24 inches closed waist. The rib cage here is 31 inches, so the underbust here, it has a 7-inch rib spring, and at the hip it's 34 inches, so it has a 10-inch hip spring. You can see that it gives me a moderate hourglass silhouette, and it has a slightly conical rib cage here. So let's go to the tabletop portion now, and I can show you the details of this corset up close. So here's the LARA Underbust Corset laid flat, and for the materials, feels like 2 layers of black cotton bull denim, and the front panels feel a little bit more crispy, a little bit more sturdy, so I believe that the front panels were interfaced, but the other panels of this corset were not. The other panels are just the 2 layers of black cotton. And for the labels, on each half of the corset, like left side, right side, there is a little size label on the top edge. Here is the Glamorous Corset label in the back by the Modesty panel. And this label has the fabric content and the cleaning instructions. And there is no label for the country of manufacture. And excuse some of the fuzz and dust on this dust bag here, but the corset also came with this really lovely kind of velvet finish dust bag to help protect and store your corset. And you can see it has the label on it as well. This corset was drafted to have a 6-panel pattern, so it's 12 panels total. 1, 2, 3 mix the front, 4, 5, 6 mix the back here. You can see that the front 2 panels taper a little bit towards the lower center front there, and the bones converge, so it helps give a bit more control over the lower tummy. Panel 3 and 4 have some of the curve to go over the hip here. You can see that panel 4 is quite hourglass shaped and a little bit on the skinnier side, and panels 5 and 6 have less of the curve. And how this corset was constructed was using the welt seam method, and I am going to make a video on the different types of ways that you can assemble a corset, because it actually does matter. But instead of the sandwich method, which is basically you create 1 layer sewing from panel 1 to panel 6, you create the lining layer sewing from panel 1 to panel 6, and then you put them together and sew in between. When you're doing the welt seam method, you do both layers panel 1, both layers panel 2, both layers panel 3, and on until you get to the end here. So if I go really quickly into the difference, when you're doing the welt seam method, you see a bit of a top stitch here and a top stitch on the back there. Whereas in the sandwich method, you see more of it stitched in the ditch and lock stitched. And in the sandwich method, more often than not, you have the seam allowances pressed open, so there's a little bit to either side. But with the welt seam method, there's always going to be one side of the seam that has more seam allowance, so it's going to be a little bit bulkier than the other side. So that's why you might see that this boning channel is a little bit skinnier, whereas this one is wider, it's a bit bulkier, because they needed more space to slide that bone in with all that seam allowance in there. Because the fabric is a little bit thicker, it takes a little bit to be able to feel the waist tape, but I do feel that there is one in here. It might be an inch wide and run from the center front to the center back here. The binding is made from matching strips of black cotton bull denim, and it's machine stitched on the outside and also on the inside here. You can see that on the outside it was stitched in the ditch, so you don't see any top stitch there. It's fairly tidy. And of course there's the lip on the inside. And on the inside there are really teeny tiny garter tabs. There are 3 on each side for a total of 6. It is 6.5 inches wide, so I would say about 4.5 inches of usable space once you get to that center back edge there. And it is unstiffened, made with 2 layers of this black cotton bull denim to match the rest of the corset. And if you don't like Modesty panels, then it's attached to one side of the corset here with a row of stitching. You can just take a seam ripper and just take out that row of stitching, and the Modesty panel will come right out. Additionally, there is a 1/4 inch wide Modesty placket in the front here, extending out from the knob side of the busk, again finished in the same black bull denim. This corset has an 11-inch long busk, and it is a standard flexible busk, 1/2 inch wide on each side, and it has 5 loops and pins, with the last 2 a little bit closer together here. Unlike the Jolie corset that I had reviewed last time from the same company, this corset does not have an adjacent bone by the busk here. It's just the busk itself. So you can see it's pretty standard and flexible. And this corset has a total of 24 bones, 12 on each side, and of course not including the center front busk here. So double bone on the seams, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and these are 1/4 inch wide spiral steel bones. You can see that it does attract the magnet here. And of course there are 2 flat bones sandwiching the grommets on each side. So again, the boning channels seem to be a little bit wider than they need to be. So I want to wear this corset in a little bit longer and see if the bones do or do not twist in their channels. So far they've been holding in pretty well, but this corset is a relatively low reduction for me because my natural waist is about 28 inches and this closes at 24. So I'm not putting like a huge amount of tension on this corset. And because there's a lot of layers of fabric right here, and the fabric has a lot of body to it, it doesn't seem to warp a lot, but I want to wear it a little bit longer and see if there's any change. So here's a close-up of the grommets. There are a total of 24 of them, 12 on each side. They have a small to medium flange around them, and they're finished in silver. They are set more or less equidistantly down the back here. And moving the Modesty panel aside, you can see the underside of the grommets. Nice big washers. The washers are actually bigger than the top hat part of the grommet. And this is actually a good thing because the wider the washer, the less likely the grommets are going to pull out of the corset later on. The back of these grommets, all of them have a couple of splits in them, but because of the choice of the corset lacing, it's actually not catching too badly on any of the splits here. And the laces that came with the LARA corset are your pretty standard 1/4 inch wide black flat nylon shoelace style laces. They have a bit of spring to them, but they're difficult to snap or break. They are quite abrasion resistant. They don't catch on the laces or shred a lot. They're very, very long, but overall, yeah, they're pretty standard. The LARA Underbust corset by Glamorous Corset is available in closed waist sizes from 18 inches up to 40 inches, and it's available in the black cotton you see here, as well as white cotton, tan cotton, and also a black mesh. From sizes 18 to 30, it costs $79 US, and from sizes 32 up to 40, it costs $84 US. And this concludes my review of the LARA Underbust corset by Glamorous Corsets. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something new. If you did, please remember to click that like button down there as it helps support this channel. If you have any comments or questions about this corset, feel free to leave a comment down below. And I will see you all next week for another video. Bye.